which leads to something that very much the part of Jewish character is because of the centuries of oppression and massacres and horrible things that have happened, the Spanish Inquisition, the Holocaust, and everything, you know, from the Romans destroying Jerusalem and the temple on up to today, is one of the survival mechanisms has been humor. And being a sense of humor is a way to not die of grief and anguish and fear. And I don't mean every Jew has a sense of humor, but mostly there's kind of a depreciating humor, and it can seem like flippancy and disrespect. When Josh died, someone said to me, a Baptist friend here said, "Oh, Josh was a good man, at least you know he went in the right direction, you know, that you know where he went." I said, "I don't know, he had a terrible sense of direction."
And I'm sure they were like,
she was horrified. She was horrified that I could joke that he was going to go to hell. Well, I don't believe in hell, so he wasn't going to go there. But if there was one as good a man as he was, he often got lost on camping trips, on trails, I don't know. But that's Jewish humor.
Yeah,
you survive.
So, how has Judaism shaped your life? Like, how has it impacted you as a person? How has it changed your worldview on life? I heard you talked a little bit about being raised as a Jew and saying that, you know, you give back. Obviously, Shelley does a lot with animals, and she definitely gives back. I've known that since I was a little girl. And so just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know how it's changed my worldview because I've had it as my only worldview. I think probably growing up in a minority culture, you'd have a different view. Like my husband Richard grew up as a child in Brooklyn where everyone he knew was Jewish. Where he was talking about some child he knew who thought that anybody who wasn't Jewish was black. You know, because they either... I had friends who were from the Philippines, and their children, they lived in a Jewish community in Cleveland, and their little girl thought that everybody was either Catholic and Filipino, or if they were white, they were Jewish. And when in this small town we lived in Wisconsin, she came home from school from second grade the first day and said, "Everyone in the whole school is Jewish except me," because they weren't Filipino. They were. I grew up where there were very few Jews. I lived in a suburb, but there were some, and most of my adult life I've lived in places like Corbin where there was
like
So, and in any case, unless you're in a very big city like Chicago or New York, you often in a community where you are the minority. And I guess that makes you feel like, in one sense, at least subliminally, there's probably a thought of being an outsider. And how that affects you, I don't know if that's positive or negative. If it maybe makes you a little more independent or more willing to stand up for things you believe about, less desire to go along with the crowd. But I'm speaking for me. I can't speak for other Jewish people. Whether they may feel more of a need for conformity then or something. I can only speak for myself. So I think the only thing I failed to mention that I maybe should is Judaism is not a monolithic religion like maybe nowadays you'd say Roman Catholic is, or to some extent Episcopalian, where they all agree on the same thing. Otherwise then they split. That's why they split and become Methodists or Baptists or Unitarians. And in Judaism you have some, primarily in Israel or perhaps enclaves like New York, that are small groups that are extremely fundamentalist, very rigid, and to the point that I would say, some people would say fanatic. And then you have the main, but they're in a fringe, but the Haradim, you know, you read about them sometime, they're very rigid. But they're not typical of Jews. They aren't even traditional. They just was like a cult that formed over recently. I have cousins. My father's side remained extremely Orthodox. But if I wanted to eat a ham sandwich sitting next to my cousin, he would not judge me. I mean, he does what he feels is right for him. They're very observant and observe many, many things. They wouldn't travel on Sabbath. They would walk somewhere, but they would never ride in a car. They wouldn't touch money. I mean, they keep strict kosher in their homes, but not judgmental for other people. Then you have conservative Jews who follow a lot of the traditions, but less extremely so. And you have the Reform Jews who have changed a lot of the service much more. A lot of theirs is more in English than Hebrew, and they'd be a little more secular, I guess. They might be maybe secular isn't the word. They would have fewer of the old traditions and adapt it more to modern, convenient times. For instance, traditionally Judaism passes through the mother. If your mother is not Jewish and you have to convert to Judaism. Reform Jews say no. If either of your parents is Jewish, was Jewish, you're Jewish. I think they're more tolerant of intermarriage and more accepting of conversion than the traditional ones. Then you have Reconstructionist Jews and there's another one, some new agey kind of new group. We were at a wedding. The friend who made this replica of our wedding canopy is an artist in New Mexico, and when her son got married to a non-Jewish woman, they had some Jewish renewal, I think is what that newest New Agey Judaism is called. The rabbi was a woman wearing this long striped thing that looked like a bathrobe and had giant seashells around her neck and was beating a drum. Well, this was no kind of Judaism I'd ever seen in my life. It was like from a parody of a Woody Allen movie or something. But it was Judaism, you know. I mean, there's a lot of tolerance to a lot of variety.
But that's really interesting. That's really interesting. That's all the questions that I had. So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, ram's horn is called a shofar, S-H-O-F-A-R, and it's blown on holidays, particularly on the Rosh Hashanah, which is the New Year, and it's loud. And they come different sizes. Some of them are corkscrew, and they could be this long. This one's not a very big one.
So do people do this, like?
It's usually done in the synagogue.
Okay.
But since we don't have a synagogue anywhere 100 miles here, I just got that so I could make noise.
Okay. After that interview with Ms. Goldblum, I thought a lot about it while she was talking about it. She had so much to say, and it was just so different to hear it from an actual Jewish person. I mean, we read the textbook and we go over, our lesson plans and stuff, but to actually hear it from a Jewish person is a completely different, aspect. She had so much to say, and I just thought it was so interesting about the humanitarian part of her life. And if you knew her, she's extremely humanitarian. Everything she does is based on giving back to the community, and I just thought that was really cool because she took her Jewish faith and she's molded it into kind of a different, eclectic, what she kind of feels is right. And I mean, it might not be exactly like she said what every Jew would say is Judaism, but she thought it was, and that was cool to hear it firsthand from her. It also, one thing that kind of struck me as well was that she said how it made her feel to be a Jewish person in Corbin, Kentucky. And I don't know if you're aware with Corbin, but it's very Southern Baptist, and there's not a lot of differences in people's religious views. And I kind of felt bad almost because she's Jewish, and I'm sure that people are constantly on her, almost oppressing her. And that it hurts me a little bit to see that she has to go through that. And you could tell when she talked about it, the negative, connotation she has as people trying to talk to her about religion. So I guess I'll just be a lot more mindful of different religions in my everyday life as I go about my day. Yeah, so that's it.